across to Joseph Downing, senior lecturer in politics and international relations at Aston University in Birmingham. Thank you so much for joining us today, Joseph. So, I mean, it cannot be emphasized enough that we still have no word on a motive. We don't know much about the suspects either. We know that one of them is deceased, one of them is in custody. But given some of the early elements that we do know, does this attack come as a surprise to you? Israeli officials, for example, seem to have been suggesting all morning that it is not so surprising.
I mean, to be honest, it's not surprising anywhere. I mean, if we look at the global context, right, of anti-Semitism, and I think we need to put this in a historical context, right? It's easy to point fingers here at the current conflict in Gaza, but there was no Israel, there was no conflict in Gaza in the 1920s or the 1850s in Europe where anti-Semitic pogroms and massacres occurred. So anti-Semitism isn't anything new. So no, this is not unfortunately a surprise to me. And I think Jews globally, because of this historical, well established sort of vein of anti-Semitism, are threatened. And it doesn't matter whether it's in Buenos Aires or Sydney or London or Paris. This really is a global problem. And one of the issues that we've seen today, and I think I praise the ambassador for naming Ahmed Al Ahmed, the sort of the hero in this dark moment in Australian history, demonstrates that this is not a simple binary of Muslims versus Jews or Arabs versus Jews, whether it's in Australia or it's globally. These individuals that commit acts of extremism are extremely rare creatures, right? And they come from all walks of life. They can be educated, they can be uneducated, they can have a history of extremism or not. And it really makes the job of the intelligence services and law enforcement extremely hard because you can have, you know, a couple of million people that have perhaps anti-Semitic views. You can have several thousand that access extremist content online, but very few will actually go out in real life and commit such an act. And this makes combating this kind of violence and really searching for these very unpredictable needles in a haystack very, very difficult. And as I said, this is something that governments globally are reckoning with.
There is a tendency when these types of incidents occur, like you say, no matter where they happen, be it in France, in Germany, in Belgium, in Australia, in New Zealand, to suggest that public officials are not doing enough to prevent these types of acts. You say it's often like finding a needle in a haystack. It is something that's relatively rare. Do you think that there is more that could be done, be it in Australia or elsewhere, to prevent this type of attack?
But it's very interesting because we're in a context where this is not something that's about Australia, right? So the Israeli government has come out and condemned Australia as it did the UK recently for not fighting this wave of anti-Semitism. We have to be very cautious in taking too much of what they say seriously globally because they're really playing often to a domestic audience of Israelis who they want to convince not to leave the country in a time of conflict and to convince that that is the safest place globally for Jews, which, is somewhat doubtful, but is also another discussion. The real question here is the global spread of anti-Semitism. How does it spread? This is not something that's unique to Australia. This is a global problem. The key area where this is occurring is social media, is the internet. Right, I've seen my timeline on Twitter. I do research on extremism on social media, and I've seen my timeline on Twitter flooded with anti-Semitism, X, sorry, as it's called now, since Elon Musk purchased the company. Since Elon Musk has took over and basically removed many controls, since Mark Zuckerberg has watered down content moderation on Facebook after cuddling up to Donald Trump, my timelines are flooded with anti-Semitic content, as well as it's flooded with anti-Muslim content and anti-immigration content. And this is the problem, right? This is not about Australia. This is not about the UK. This is about unaccountable social media corporations, often based in the US, often under pressure from the Republican government in the US. And this really is where the problem lies. If you want to know where people are radicalized, whether they're jihadists, whether they're the far right, whether they're anti-Semites, it's online. And this is really the arena that we're finding it really, really hard to get a grip on because of the
Oh, unfortunately, it looks like we have lost Joseph Downing for now. So sorry for that technical error there. If we're able to bring him back later, we will. As a reminder, that was Joseph Downing, senior lecturer in politics and international relations at Aston University in Birmingham.